Alright, hey guys, just got back from seeing Doctor Strange. Fair warning, again, as I always warn with this, first of all, spoilers. I'm gonna say it like 10 times, you may hear spoilers. In fact, you probably will hear spoilers. So if you don't want to hear spoilers before you go see Doctor Strange, go see Doctor Strange and then come back and watch this. Spoilers. Also, I'm a little biased. This is the second movie I've been most looking forward to, uh, for this year, the entire year. That includes all the other like Suicide Squad, which was my third most look forward to movie. That includes Civil War, all those other movies that came out this year. This is my second most look forward to movie of the year. The only thing that beats it, of course, is Star Wars. Not a surprise there. Um, by the way, this is my going to be my honorable review. Like I mentioned, I just got out from seeing it, so I'm going to go ahead and give my review. I'm going to start off with talking about the plot, which is where you're going to hear spoilers. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the characters, and then of course I'm going to end up with giving a rating out of 10. So cool. So the plot. The opening scene was probably one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen in a movie. It was like if Inception had a baby with the MCU, that's how we got Doctor Strange. And in fact, I called that it had this really cool Inception sort of vibe way before the movie came out. I'm going to take credit for that. And yeah, it was the opening scene. Like, it set the tone for the movie that this was going to be a force to be reckoned with. So yeah, opens up with like the what is it, Carcilius? Forgive me if I pronounce his name wrong. And his like homies running through London, and the Ancient One just pops out and like it's got this weird. I mean, they've all got these weird hand signals, but it didn't feel hokey. It felt pretty badass sorcery type thing, which I've never really been too big a fan. My best friend is huge on the whole magic sorcery thing. I've never cared so much. I would rather, shoot things and use swords, something that's more physical. Um, but all the sorcery used in the entire movie was above and beyond. It was insane. It was, believable except for the fact that, it's not real. And yeah, so sorry. Okay, gonna stick to the plot because I'm like so amped about this movie because it was so good. Yeah, so they get into a little tissy in this thing called Mirror Dimension, which at the time you don't know that it's called the Mirror Dimension. They get into this fight, and then eventually Carcelius and his bros disappear, and the Ancient One just toddles back to oh god, I'm already forgetting about the name of the city. Shit. Luke, do you remember? He doesn't remember. Doesn't matter. Anyways, from there we go to Stephen Strange, where he's, doing his surgeon thing, and his personality before he even becomes, the sorcerer of Stephen Strange is pretty. It's awesome. Like, and this is one of the reasons why I loved Tony Stark, was because he had so much personality. Like, he's arrogant, which I don't know why I love so much. But it's believable because how many people are assholes? He's confident, cocky, he's like this awesome sarcasm, and he's just absolutely hilarious. His interactions with Rachel McAdams during that first scene were fantastic. And yeah, I mean, that scene is just basically him, doing this ridiculous surgery on this guy to save his life. And of course, he all does it for himself to become famous, but whatever. It was awesome. From there, obviously we go through this whole sob story about his, I mean, not sob story. He has to go to some thing where he's all dressed up, looking like a badass, and then he gets in this awful car accident. Like, it was violent. I mean, that's what happens when you drive. I don't remember what kind of car it was, but he was going way too fast on one of those roads that are on the side of a mountain, which you probably shouldn't do. and then his car just goes like into the side of the bay. It was violent. It was awesome, and you see his hands like go smashing into the dashboard. That was really cool how they did that, and they made it violent on purpose. Like that was not that was not a pretty scene. And then of course he gets, heloed out to the hospital where Rachel McAdams, is like there and she's having a panic attack because he's literally dying. Um, and then of course the next time he wakes up, his hands are like all, up on these little platform things, and he's got needles all in his hands, and of course his first thought is, what the fuck did they do to me? And it's just, and he just goes on like there's like a 15-20 minute little compilation of all the people he goes to talk to, all the surgeries they make, or he makes people do so he can get his hands back, because the only thing he cares about or is worried about is, being able to do what he's so great at, which is be a great surgeon. And of course nothing works. And then eventually, while he's in therapy, his or physical therapy, this guy that's, helping him tells him this crazy story about this guy who Stephen Strange had actually previously totally looked past because he was a completely helpless case, according to Doctor Strange. And he told him how he eventually was able to walk, and Stephen Strange called him totally bullshit on that story, and the guy was like, dude, it's a true story, I'll show you the file. So Steven, reads the file and goes out and finds this dude. And of course it's Benjamin Bratt, which, miscongeniality. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of that he's in. But he's good in that movie. And that's an old movie. It's a great movie. Anyways, so you go see this guy who's walking around playing basketball. And he's like, how the fuck are you walking? Like, you should not be walking. I couldn't help you. How are you walking right now? And he's like, and he tells him about, where the Ancient One is. Which, again, I can't remember the name of the place. If you, it starts with a K. I could probably spell it out better than I can remember it. I think it's can't remember. If you guys remember, which I'm sure you, I could probably Google it right now and take 3 seconds, but if you want to throw that in the comments for me, I'd appreciate that. Whatever. Anyways, so Steven spends like his entire life savings going out there, and eventually is in the process of getting mugged before, lo and behold, Mordo saves him. And takes him to the Ancient One, and there's the first scene he has with the Ancient One is of course him being arrogant, like, hey, I just want my hands back, I want you to help me get my, I want you to heal me basically, so I can continue being a douchebag, hilarious douchebag by the way. And the Ancient One just pushes at his chest, and then you see his astro projection self gets shot out of his physical self. I know that sounds confusing. Imagine watching it. It was a really cool effect because you just see his astro self pop out of himself, and he's looking down at himself. He's like, "What the hell?" And then he gets pulled back in. He's like, "Dude, what did you put in my tea? What drug did you just give me?" And the Ancient One does it again. And then there's another 5-10 minute scene of him zooming through all kinds of dimensions, and it was crazy. I think it might have been a little bit too long to be entirely positive. And I'm gonna write that down because I don't want to forget. I think that scene might have been a little long, but it was really cool to see him zip through all kinds of crazy I don't even know what to call it, wormhole looking things. And then eventually he comes back and he's like, teach me, and I wasn't expecting this. The Ancient One was like, no. And then she kicks him out. And of course, he goes banging on the door for 5-6 hours, and the Ancient One's Mordo is like, we should probably let him in, because, he's not going to go away. And eventually they let him back in. And from there is where we get the awesome compilation of, the Ancient One teaching Steven basically, all the sorcery, the spells, the martial arts. And the thing that I actually liked the most about that scene wasn't even the way that it was shot. It was just it was the characterization of Stephen Strange. Because if you think about it, he's a doctor, obviously, but you know, think about like med school and all that, because I've got my, you know, my grandfather went to med school, my dad went to med school, so, you know, all that studying that they do, like, it's crazy. And I loved how the reason why he was, well, one of the reasons why why he learned so quickly was because he basically took like his med school study skills and applied it to all the like learning for sorcery, which was like, you know, he'd bend the rules a little bit to like, so he could sleep, but his astral self would be like learning simultaneously. And, you know, he just kept reading and reading and reading, and he learned super quick. And then, of course, there's this other part where, like, apparently he was, you know, made. He was like, you know, he had these special powers inside of him. I mean, that part didn't bother me so much. Maybe it did a little bit, but I thought that part was cool. How they attributed a lot to him being that good at sorcery was because of his study habits. And I'm a nerd. I like those sorts of things. So anyways, they go through that entire scene. And then, of course, Karsilius comes back. And I'm kind of, if the end part gets a little wonky, it's because there was so much stuff that happened. It's very, very kind of confusing to explain. But I'm going to try to shorten it up a bit. So to put it simply, to put it simply, Karsilius comes back, you know, just kind of he's got like the dark dimension on his side. It sounds a little bit like the dark side of the force, if I may say so myself. And, you know, and he just wants to basically have the dark dimension take over Earth, which I don't know how that benefits him. And you know what, ironically, I watched a bunch of non-spoiler reviews, and that was kind of one of the biggest things that people, like, had an issue with Doctor Strange, was that the bad guy, Karsilius, was, like, kind of the weaker part of the movie, which is, as everybody loves to say, is one of the weaker sides of the MCU, the Marvel Universe, is the bad guys. Like, they're kind of just there, but they don't serve a greater purpose. For the most part, and that's how they felt about Karsilius. And I was like, you know, I mean, this is Doctor Strange's origin story. I think Karsilius, I mean, Mads Mikkelsen is a badass, obviously. I think he served a fine purpose. I don't think that part was like excellently done, but it was good enough for me. I mean, I was happy. So, anyways, he's causing havoc, and you know, this is when Doctor Strange is like, I don't want to deal with this shit. I just want to be healed and then go. And the Ancient One's like, well, you have so much potential. You know, you could do a lot of good for the world. Before he has time to reply, he gets thrown into one of the other sanctums. And of course, there's technically actually 4 areas, but the one in Kathmandu, maybe? Is that right, Luke? I don't remember. Anyways, the main area, which is where he meets the Ancient One, has like 3 portals to these other sanctums. One in London, one in New York, ironically, and then another in Hong Kong. He gets kicked into the New York one. And that's where you kind of see the like glass pane that you see in the trailer of him walking up the stairs, and you see his cloak. We haven't gotten to the cloak yet. But anyway, so he gets kicked into the New York sanctum, and that's actually where you see the cloak, is because there's a bunch of artifacts all around one of the floors, and I saw in the corner of my eye the cloak, and my friend I was with, actually, I turned to him and like, oh my god, it's the cloak, it's the cloak, it's the cloak, and he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I was like, you don't understand, it's the cloak. Whatever, I thought it was awesome. And he doesn't get to put on the cloak fast enough for me. Whatever. So there's just to shorten up. That's like literally the middle of the movie. But to get to the end, I'm gonna try to shorten that up for you because I don't want to ruin it too much. Basically, Stephen Strange and Mordo and the Ancient One do all they can to stop Karsilius from, you know, having all of Earth taken by the Dark Dimension and by Dormammu. And there's some really sick scenes in there. All the fight scenes with Stephen Strange using like sorcery and the spells, and like all the little orangey like shields and stuff that he used were so awesome. Of course, the scene that, you know, changed the entire the entire like end of the plot or the movie was when Stephen Strange, they lost Hong Kong, they've lost the original Sanctum, they basically lost New York, and they definitely lost London. He's like, oh, well, we're fucked now. He just flies into the dark dimension. He goes and hangs out with Dormammu, and he's, because he's bloody brilliant, he has himself on a loop with the eye of, I'm not remembering anything today, but whatever, the pendant that he's wearing, he creates a time loop, so he just goes through, like, probably hundreds, thousands, God knows how many iterations of him talking to Dormammu saying, hey, we need to cut a deal. And Dormammu, remembers every single time. He just gets sick of it eventually and is like, okay, fine, what do you want to... I mean, it doesn't happen exactly like that. He gets really annoyed and angry 1,000 times. But he's fine. He's eventually like, fine, we'll cut a deal. And when Stephen Strange arrives back on Earth, Kaecilius gets pulled into the dark dimension, and then he just goes back in, or Stephen Strange just retracts time. So London is, I'm sorry, not London, Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Sanctum is back to normal. And then from there, skipping a little bit, he goes, oh God, I'm not losing my train of thought. Just to get to the end, actually we are at the end, Mordo kind of is like, you know what, you've totally gone against the law, the nature of law and, time and all this Captain America bullshit, no offense. I'm done with hanging out with you. And he just pieces off, and Stephen Strange is like, okay. And that kind of, for the most part, ends the movie. There's 2 end credit scenes, one of which is with Thor, which sets up his movie, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the next Marvel movie that comes out. And then the other one is, the last end credit scene is him talking to, he goes back to Benjamin Bratt, or I'm sorry, Mordo goes back to Benjamin Bratt, and he's like, what I realized is there's too many sorcerers, and yeah. And that's the end of the movie. So cool. So characters. Benedict Cumberbatch is one hell of a talented actor. Like, he's crazy. There's not a person I can imagine being Doctor Strange more than Benedict Cumberbatch. Like, he personifies Doctor Strange for me. Just like, Orlando Bloom personifies Legolas for me. He was crazy fantastic. He, before he becomes the sorcerer, when he's just a surgeon, his personality was like on point. Just the way he took that character was like a 5 out of 5 for me. Rachel McAdams, who I have a major chick crush on, I don't know what was her name, Christine Palmer. She didn't have a lot of individual storyline. She was basically there as, she was the Natalie Portman of, from the Thor movie. That's exactly what she was. She didn't really have her own purpose other than to serve as like a secondary character or a helping character to Doctor Strange, which, I mean, that bothers me just a little bit because I'm a huge Rachel McAdams fan. But this is called Doctor Strange for a reason, so it was going to be mostly about him. Which, fine. I'm not too big of I'm not too upset about that. But she was great. She did a very good job. Mads Mikkelsen, I already mentioned. People have been complaining, I guess, because the bad guy never gets, he's just there. I thought Mads Mikkelsen played great as bad guy. Of course, he always does. And that's really all I have to say about him, because we didn't really see him that much other than to, getting in people's way and piss people off. Mordo was actually really cool. He played a big part in getting Stephen Strange to being more selfless and into being a well-disciplined sorcerer. Same with, the Ancient One. She played a lot of tough love. There's like this one scene where she kicks him to Everest, and she's like, you gotta figure out how to make this portal to get back, or else you're gonna freeze to death. And that was pretty savage. I loved it. And there's a great twist with the Ancient One, which I'm not gonna say just because I feel like I've already ruined the entire movie if you're watching this and haven't seen the movie. Which shame on you, by the way. But yeah, you should. There's a good twist for the Ancient One. Not really like a huge twist, but like a a minor uh like secondary character twist. Let's see who else. Who else? I think those are kind of the biggest players. Pros and cons of the movie. The movie was like the effects, the Inception-esque effects, and buildings collapsing and like I can't even explain it. Like you gotta see it. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it in the trailers. It was fantastic. It was crazy. Like I said, the opening scene, which shows a lot of that Inception-y sort of stuff, was just I was completely mind blown. Like my mouth, I'm pretty sure was like open for the entire opening scene. I was like, it was insane. That's a huge pro for me. Benedict Cumberbatch, another huge pro for me. I mean, he's obviously he carries Doctor Strange, and I think not a lot of people, for the most part, are going to go see this movie or weren't going to go see this movie because if you're not a huge Star Wars, I mean, correction, if you're not a huge or even familiar with comic books that much, you probably don't know who Doctor Strange is. It's a lot easier to know who Iron Man is and Captain America, but Doctor Strange is not one of the more popular Marvel characters. So I feel like, you know, uh, maybe not a whole lot of people are going to go see it, but Benedict Cumberbatch does a great, great job. Cons. Oh my god, I don't even know if I can think of any cons. Really, really tiny things, like I mentioned, because I'm such a huge Rachel McAdams fan. I would have liked to see her just a little bit more, have a little bit more sustenance, rather than just being like, a side piece to Doctor Strange. Which, by the way, I don't even know what her actual like relationship is to Doctor Strange. Like maybe I completely missed something, but were they like just dating or were they like engaged or married or what? I'm very confused about that. Oh, another good pro. This is huge. So, um, Doctor Strange is really confusing. Like the whole mystical universe is very, very, very confusing. I've read, I think it was the 2012 Doctor Strange origin comic book, which is great by the way. And it's very confusing. I think the movie did about as good of a job as it could, making it like stupid proof. Like there's a mirror dimension, there's a dark dimension, then explaining what those were individually and how they can affect one another. I think it did a really good job of that. I think that was actually one of the highest pluses of the movie. As for other cons, they didn't really explain more in detail how Karsilius kind of turned to the dark side. I mean that's the same thing everybody else is gonna say. But that's kind of for the most part it for me. I think maybe one last thing is like the last end credit scene with Mordu and Benjamin Bratt could have been a little stronger, especially for like, at the end when it says Doctor Strange will return. I think it should have been a little bit stronger of a clip, especially since the clip before that had to do with set up Thor decently. I don't know. I don't think they were the strongest of end credit scenes, in my opinion. Okay, cool. Last but not least, a rating. Like I said, I got out of this movie and I was like, that might have been better than Deadpool. And Deadpool, as of about 5 hours ago, was my favorite Marvel movie. Because Deadpool. And yeah, and I was like, this might be better than Deadpool, because it just had elements to it which were just ballsy on Marvel's part, and I liked it. I liked that it was different. It wasn't very Marvel cookie cutter. There was obviously a whole different universe and multiverse to be added to the Marvel universe, and it just expanded like exponentially. And I love that. There's so many more possibilities now with the Marvel Universe, which we know from comic books, but, it's not real or canon until it happens in the movie or the TV shows, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So my rating, this is hard. I want to give it like a 10, but that's not, I can't do that because there's some definitely weaker points, not real bad things, but weaker points, I'm going to give this a 9.2. And that's a strong ass rating. Yeah, so, hey, thanks for watching this review. If you have any comments, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. This is my second honorable review, like I mentioned. I've been kind of waiting to do my TV recap reviews for a while because I'm trying to figure out what exactly I want to do since I just got into Supergirl. And of course, I'm always a Flash fan, and there's a bunch of other random things that I watch also. But yeah, be on the lookout for those, hopefully in the near future. Next movie review you'll be seeing from me will most likely be Star Wars Rogue One, which is my most look forward to movie of the year. Yeah, so thanks for stopping by, and hope to see you soon. Thanks, bye.